Call the meeting to order. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the city in which we live. Guide us this evening as we make our decisions. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
This is the January 28, 2025 regular meeting of the Newnan City Council. You have the minutes from the regular meeting of January the 7th before you. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion is second. We approve the minutes of the regular meeting January 7th as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. You also had the minutes from the special call work session, January 7th, 2025, before you. I'll entertain a minute.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. We adopt as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Before we get into the agenda, I'm going to ask the council to amend the agenda this evening. On the second page, we'll be moving item O in front of item N. And the reason for this is that I need to recuse myself on items N and P. So when we finish the item O, I will leave and not return for the evening. So if there's a motion to amend the agenda as such.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion is second. We amend the agenda as described. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. The next thing, appointments from boards and commissions. Tonight, the first one is Christmas Commission, Mr. DeBose.
Candace Martin is the one I'd like to appoint. She lives at 39 Jackson Street.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The next, Mr. DeBose, is Joe Crane Jr., Planning Commission.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Joe Crane Jr., also on Jackson Street.
Second.
Motion is second. Joe Crane Jr. on Planning Commission. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Mr. Kretko is leaving the Three Rivers Commission after many years of service. We appreciate that very much. Thank you from the council.
You're welcome.
And Paul Guillaume has decided to be appointed to Three Rivers Commission. You look surprised.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't matter whether you look surprised or not.
I'm in.
Okay, I'm going to make that motion if you don't mind.
Second.
Is there a second? It's appropriate that Mr. Corrico makes the second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Trees and parks, my appointment there, we need to put on the next agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more appointment that didn't get on the list today.
Okay,
If you
All
don't
right, sure.
mind,
What
it's
is-
for Keep Newnan Beautiful,
all right.
and the name is Arden Avery. Arden is the first name, Avery is the second.
Second.
Motion is second on Keep Newnan Beautiful, an off-agenda appointment by Mr. DeBose. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Mr. Mayor.
DeBose, you're
I-
not alone. Mr. Kretko also has an off-agenda appointment.
Thank you for trees and parks. I'd like to nominate Mr. Daryl Earnhardt.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Darrell Earnhardt for Trees and Parks by Mr. Kretko. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Ms. Jenkins, would you introduce our Newnan Youth Council members?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have with us tonight 6 members of the Newnan Youth Council, our official youth voice for the city of Newnan. And as I call your name, please stand and continue to stand until all of you are called. We have with us Dominic Shafferton, a sophomore from Heritage, Davis Markham, a junior from Newnan High, Mary Louise Griffiths, a senior at Central, and she's our secretary this year. Lacey Johnson, who is a senior at Heritage. She is the historian this year. Isabel Scarano, senior, Newnan High. And Ashlyn Jones, senior, Newnan High. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Welcome. We appreciate your service on the council. The next item is also under boards and commissions is item G, a request to dissolve the Farmer Street Cemetery Commission. You have this letter from Ms. Palmer in your agenda. I would just open it up for council comments or questions regarding the letter and action to be taken. If
I'll just make a motion that we accept the request to dissolve the Farmer Street Cemetery Commission.
Second.
Motion is second that we accept the request as stated in the letter to resolve the Farmer Street Cemetery Commission for reasons stated in the letter in the agenda.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I didn't hear back from the person I reached out to on the commission, so I gotta ask y'all. Do you all feel like this is appropriate, that they are done with everything they need to do, and that there's really nothing else you need them for?
Short of a new charge from the council, yes.
Okay.
Now, if the council were to ask or assign additional duties or request that they undertake a new project or another program of sorts, they could be, reconstituted. But currently, yes, that was the.
Okay, and so at this point, they have done all of their duties. What's left to do to get the cemetery where we want it to be and according to the plans that they came up and we approved?
Yeah, so when this body passed the 2025 budget in January, you funded phase 3 of the construction plan. So as a result, Pond and Company will complete and have 100% construction documents. At that point, we'll have the documents that could then be put out to bid. But frankly, this body with staff we can support, we'll need to find an assigned funding source for that.
So you'll need to find another funding source for it. Is that what you just said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that answers all my questions. After that, it's going to be reporting from you guys on what's happening and seeking guidance from us on how to proceed and without this body bringing that to us.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I would like to seek a little bit of clarification. Mr. Sears and I were talking. I think it's probably not appropriate to completely remove them from the Code of Ordinances. I think we may just want some resolution to identify where they're actually at. They sit in the Code of Ordinances for years and they're inactive. But I think that's something I think that we really need direction on as to whether we want to remove or just make certain they remain inactive.
Are you referring to the commission specifically?
The commission specifically, correct. Mr. Sears, you got anything else to clarify?
No.
I know we have a motion second. We're having some discussion here. I personally would like to see the word inactive rather than dissolve.
Okay.
Because that tends to make people think we're dissolving the group out of in the ordinance. If we need to stand it back up for programming or other things at a
You
later
could.
date, if we see that, we'll have the mechanism in place to do that and not have to recreate it.
Yeah, because the reminder is that this is the second time we've had to recreate it, so we might as well keep it active,
Okay.
just in case.
Because the people that are on there, they could just, they're not on there, we'd have to reappoint them.
Sure. You'd have to reappoint. So I'm not sure inactive is the right word. I'm not,
Dissolve.
Mr. Sears, how would you like to address
Let
that?
us draft a resolution for you for the next meeting, and then you can consider that in doing that, so that it doesn't repeal the ordinance.
right.
But it's the resolution that they have completed the initial task, that they were given, and therefore it's going to be inactive, and thank the people who have served for their services. Then that way, if you ever wanted to redo it, you could just reappoint.
Okay. Could I have a motion, if you agree with that, could I have a motion to withdraw the motion?
I have a motion to withdraw the motion. Is that what you're looking for?
Will you withdraw the motion
Yes.
and withdraw the second?
Withdraw the second?
Okay, all right, fine. Mr. Phillips, do you have anything this evening? I don't have anything this evening. Under new business, the first is a consideration of a supplemental agreement 1 for the project framework agreement between GDOT and the City of Newnan Transportation Facilities Improvements on Sprayberry Road at Jefferson Street and Jefferson Street at Grayson Trail. Mr. Clark, how are you this evening?
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Got your
As
letter
you
in
kn-
the agenda?
Right. As you know, we have a project that we're working on that's essentially the roundabout where Sprayberry Road will realign with Grayson Trail at Jefferson Street. Our original project framework agreement provided the number there, the $1.252 million, which obligated the city to $673,000 as local match. We had an opportunity to go back to the Atlanta Regional Commission and obtain additional funding, which is the supplemental agreement number 1. and that will reduce our local match to $335,000, which reduces it by $337,000. So, we recommend that you accept this money.
We saved the $337,000.
Yes, sir.
That's a good recommendation. We appreciate that. Is
So I
there
make a
mo-
motion, we accept that change and
Yes, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. We accept the change as presented. Recommendation. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir. The next item on the agenda, our annual approval of various closures for the 2025 Main Street Newnan events. Ms. Branch is here this evening if we need questions answered from her, but if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the closure dates as
Second.
presented.
Motion and second to approve the closure date. Any discussion? All those, yes,
I do,
question?
I have a question. Is this just the street closures, or is this, okay, I see, it's two different things. Never mind, I answered my own
No,
question.
no question.
No.
Answered your own question.
I
That's a
did.
good thing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. The next is a consideration of to exercise the open container amendment to Chapter 3 alcohol beverages during the 2025 Main Street Summer Night, Newnan Nights concert series. We've done this in the past. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion second. We approve the request. Any discussion?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, ma'am.
This was what, the one I was gonna ask the question about. This is just the summer nights. This isn't anything else that normally happens, like Jazz in the Park, for instance.
Correct. You're correct, yeah.
So-
And it's moved to First Avenue Park. As you all know, we anticipate Greenville Street Park being under construction. So if I can go ahead and answer what may be your next question, where's Jazz in the Park going to take place? We anticipate moving it to the Newnan Center and the amphitheater out there. The Newnan Cultural Arts Commission has thought about, let's try that, and so take that series out there, still summer series, same what you've seen in years past, but just a different venue while Greenville Street Park's under construction.
Okay, and will we need this for that?
You will.
Okay, and y'all will come back with
You
that
will.
for us?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
That's what I need. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, so let's, motion a second on that. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Like, opposed, like sign, motion carried. The next is consideration of the option for newer loan on 100 East Washington Street. Mr. Moody, how are you this evening?
I'm doing fine, Mayor, Council. I'm going to introduce Gerald Walton, again, Chairman of the NER Board. He's going to be helping out with the item tonight. As this is a NER item, I will be here for assistance if you have any other
No?
questions.
Good. Mr. Walton, how are you?
Great, how you doing, Mayor, Council? We're back to try to get some resolution for the newer loan for the property at 100 East Washington Street. On December the 10th, the council requested more time to consider. And so what we did, we're coming back with two recommendations. One, cancellation of the promissory note and deed to secure debt, complete forgiveness of the loan, or call the loan balance in full, which means we'll have to sell the lot.
Okay. Questions of Mr. Walton? Okay. Is there a motion on that?
I'd like to make a motion that we cancel the promissory note and deed to secure debt and complete forgiveness of the loan balance.
Is there a second? Is there a second? No second. Okay. Motion dies for lack of a second. Is there another motion?
I'd like to make the motion to call the loan in full, which is the option to call the full balance of the loan issued to NERA. This option will require the sale of the lot. NERA is unable to pay any balances of the debt with grant funding. Is that the motion? I would just, they sell the lot, basically.
Second.
Okay. Does the motion include any consideration of if they sell the lot and there's still a balance on the loan?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
keep in mind, there's a note of security, so I take the motion to mean the city's gonna foreclose on the lot, sell it on the courthouse steps.
That's going to be, that would be the only process I know of, unless you
Well,
have
the other
an option.
process would, which kind of does something, is that you could either authorize them to go ahead and sell the lot and pay the money back to the city, whatever they did and forgive any balance if it doesn't bring the balance of the note. That would be one option that you could do, is go ahead and instruct them that you're gonna call the note, but they can go ahead and, advertise and sell the lot and pay you off just like anybody else, and it would be a deficit payment. And then you could
Forgive the balance
of the loan. Or you could go ahead and foreclose, just like anybody else. I mean, you run, I guess, technically, I don't think you would want to take a deed back to do a foreclosure, because that would put the property back in the city's name.
Yeah.
So I guess to sell the lot, and they remit the amount of the sale back to the city,
Correct.
and then we forgive the balance.
If there was a balance.
If there was a balance.
I have a question. As long as it's properly marketed, then I'm willing to forgive the balance. I mean, I don't want to just sell it and and take anything for it and forgive the balance.
Well, correct.
I don't know how we do that, but I would, just as long as it's properly marketed and there's an
Well,
open.
we're not gonna do that. They're gonna do it.
I mean, they're gonna
that,
do
but
it.
then they,
But if we
once they
tell,
get a contract on it, whatever the amount of money is, you'll have to approve.
okay, well, as long as we get a chance to
Yeah,
approve that,
you'll
that's
have to
fine.
approve that.
I got a couple of questions.
All right.
So was the land purchased with the loan funds? How did we acquire it? How did they acquire it?
Right-of-way acquisition. When we were improving McIntosh Parkway, there were some damages to the property due to the right-of-way acquisition, and the damages were sufficient enough. There was a complete taking of the property. So it was SPLOST funding to purchase the property.
And then we technically sold it to Newnan and took back the note for $150 or whatever.
But it changed, yeah, correct. That's how we originally acquired it, was a right-of-way acquisition.
Okay. Well, the last time this came up, and for the benefit of those who weren't there, because this body has had time to think about it and make up their minds. This is, I'm in opposition of that, because the point of NURA, which is the Newnan Urban Redevelopment Authority Agency, is to bring affordable homeownership opportunities to our city. And so in an environment where it is increasingly difficult to provide workforce housing, I think that this is an opportunity for us to forgive this loan so that they can go and do what they've been commissioned to do, which is create homeownership opportunities for working families in our community. And the biggest challenge to that is not necessarily the sticks and bricks cost, it is land, the availability of it and the cost of it. So in this situation where the market is doing what it's doing, we have an opportunity to invest in the citizens and their ability to have affordable homeownership right here in Newnan on a lot that we already own. It is gold in this market to have land that you can build a home on, sell it to a hardworking family, and they be able to live here in Newnan. And so to sell it right now, I think is just, it's not the wise thing to do if you really do consider the market that we're working in. I mean, for all we know, somebody's going to buy it, and they could buy a home, buy it and build a single-family home there that they actually own or occupy, or they could sell it and, buy it and have something there that is rental. It could be a whole lot of things. But what we know, if we give it and let it stay with the Newnan Urban Redevelopment Authority, is that it will be a single-family, owner-occupied home for working families who qualify as middle income here, low mod income here. And I think that it is the wrong move for us to sell this piece of property on the market and lose that very valuable and rare opportunity right now.
I have a question, and kind of to address what she spoke about, and this was originally purchased from SPLOST funds, correct? So we do have responsibility back to the taxpayers that funded it originally, through SPLOST. And so I think we would be it would be in our best interest and the taxpayers' best interest to put it back on the market and sell it, honestly. I do have a question, though. If NERA sells this, and this is for a legal question, I guess, would it come with any encumbrances or any NERA or city, anything at all? Strings or, anybody could look back in the future and say, hey, we bought this from the city has some responsibility of anything or any type?
Well, other than zoning. I mean,
Okay, but nothing else?
I don't know of any other encumbrances on it. You know,
Okay.
actually, it was two pieces to it, is that, and I'm not sure where some of this money, and Cletus may correct it, but we actually bought the 100. And you may remember, we also, there was an odd strip that was left over from Farmer Street that went to the property behind. So we acquired part of that as part of the project, and all that was with SPLOST money. But then we went back a couple of years later and bought that little tail from that lady back there so that we squared off the lot, you know, along the whole of Farmer Street. So I don't know if that money came from SPLOST or if that money came from general.
May have been general fund.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so the motion,
So
you want to amend the motion?
Councilman Rhodes posed a question. So we're to sell of the property, and the sale of the property, of that money comes back to the city, and the second portion, it's sold at a fair market value, and then it comes back, then we forgive the remainder of the debt.
Through the sale, then we can forgive,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
But the motion includes the city not foreclosing on the lot, that NERA is going to sell the property.
Right, okay, yes,
All right, so just want to make that clear.
that's clear.
Is there a
Thank you.
second?
Is there, I don't have a second
Oh,
yet.
second then.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Any other questions? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Nay.
Motion carried 6-1. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Walton, we appreciate your hard work on this. The next is a consideration of proposals for on-call engineering firms related to potential design and construction of public improvements along Wood Lane Drive.
Yes, Mayor Brady, this was brought to the staff's attention in November 26, 2024 meeting about, in particular, 5 Wood Lane Drive. Actually affects likely 5 properties in and around that curve. Staff has 2 firms that we employ in an on-call basis. One's Columbia Engineering, the other's Integrated Science and Engineering. We'd asked both of them to provide proposals to do the design work, to make the improvements, to improve the stormwater challenges there. Those are included in your packet. One of the task orders came back at $58,337.50, the other at $55,200. I also like to note that this is for design only. We have an estimated cost to construct the improvements at about $172,000, which does not include acquisition that may or may not be required. So what we're looking for is, if the council would like to proceed with this, that we would engage one of those 2 on-call firms to do the design.
Questions of Mr. Craver? Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
The lowest.
A motion that we engage Columbia at the lower number of 55.2?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank
that's
you.
the recommendation, isn't it?
Well, he gave us 2 choices, so we're going to take the lower one.
If you want to proceed with the project, yes, sir, that's the decision.
Okay, so I have a motion, a second, to approve Columbia Engineering at $55,200 on this Wood Lane project. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried, thank you. The next is consideration of a resolution supporting the introduction of local legislation to create a base year freeze homestead exemption in the city of Newnan. You've all been aware of the discussions we've had along these lines. Mr. Phillips is here certainly and can answer any questions, comments, or concerns. I'll begin the discussion. Mr. Phillips?
Yeah, we've had this conversation at the retreat, and we've had a conversation amongst ourselves. So what you do have in front of you is a resolution that if you want to proceed, adopt the resolution. The resolution goes to our local delegation. We have to run an advertisement in the Times Herald, and after that ad runs for 1 week, then our delegation can introduce the legislation. Provided that the legislation is approved, it would come back and be put on a referendum, likely in the November election. I think that's what's in the actual resolution. And it would go to a public vote to create what is known as a base year freeze for homesteaded properties. Base year freeze means that the taxable value is set at that year of the freeze. Every year that homes are still assessed, the homestead exemption would be varied back to the year of the base year freeze. It is very beneficial for our homeowners, our property owners, for tax relief. As I've said a couple of times, what does become important is how we set our millage rate going forward, because you are given a pretty substantial reduction on the assessed values. A couple other options I have listed. You obviously could wait to see what happens, particularly in the legislative session. We are hearing there may be some amendments to House Bill 581. As you know, local governments have the option to opt out of House Bill 581. This board has not had that decision. It appears we're staying in because we have not been running the hearings. And the base year freeze would be a greater freeze than House Bill 581. So if the voters go to the polls in November and they approve the base year freeze, it would essentially trump 581 because it would be a homestead of greater value. So those are the options before you. You could also wait and see if no local entity from the city and the county opts out, there may be a call for a 1 cent sales tax in the same referendum for the purpose of further reducing property taxes. So there's a lot of things on your plate right now, but if you certainly are interested in the base year freeze, the resolution is in front of you, and we need to get it in front of our local delegation so they can introduce legislation.
If we don't do this tonight, it stops the whole process, except for the.
Oh, 581, we're
581
in.
kicks it.
Yeah, because you're not making a decision to opt out. So you're automatically in. You hear a lot of government entities say, are we going to opt in or are we going to opt out? There is no opting in. You're already in.
Right.
I mean, the session just started, and if you didn't make a decision tonight, I think we still got plenty of time. Yeah, I think you got another meeting or so to where you could make it happen, but obviously you don't want to go too far. Obviously, crossover day is
March 3rd,
Yeah,
March 3rd, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, which,
maybe the next meeting at the latest if you wanted to think about it for 2 weeks, but that's at the latest.
it has to advertise before
Right.
the delegation can drop. So you would be, if you did it at your 8th meeting, is that right, the 8th? If you, no,
No, the 11th.
11th, if you did it at your 11th meeting, then it would run that next Wednesday.
Okay.
Do you see? And then, so that only gives them about a week.
Yeah, that cuts it a little short, in my opinion. I'd like to see us
I would,
I'm ready to
sorry.
do it.
I'm ready to pull the trigger on
make
it.
a motion.
I make a motion that we go ahead with that and approve that and.
Adopt the resolution.
Okay,
Yes.
adopt the resolution. The motion is to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Second, motion is second. Any other discussion,
I
question?
do, I have a question.
All right.
I know that we've gotten a sample here in this, this chart that you put together with homes based at 400 to 504,000. Is there any bracket where we would see any negatives on this? And what would happen if, say, we had a downturn and value assessments, you know, because we did have that at 08 through, what happens there?
In this particular type of freeze, it is froze. And probably 19 out of 20 years, you see increases, not decreases, but decreases have happened.
Okay.
They have happened, but in this particular case, they're froze.
And the farther out that anomaly might happen, the better off
Yep,
those
they're
are who
froze.
had their homes for a while. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I've got a motion and a second. We approve the resolution as presented. Any other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Now, we're at the point of the agenda where we amended the agenda. So for those of you who are looking at the agenda, we're going to move O in front of N, And I'm going to open the public hearing at this time on a rezoning request RZ 2024-03 for .186 acres, 51 Robinson Street, tax parcel N12-004-003A, from heavy industrial to RUI urban residential dwelling district, historic landfill for the purpose of constructing a duplex. Ms. Dunlap, how are you this evening?
Doing well, thank you.
Thank you.
You are also. As you stated, this is a request by Terrence Forbes Taylor. It's to rezone 0.186 acres located at 51 Robinson Street, and it's from IHB to RUI. In the area that it is here on the map. The site is currently vacant with a significant amount of ground vegetation. And this is a picture of it, and the applicant is seeking to construct a duplex on the site. And that's what the proposed duplex would look like. And then this is an interior visual as well. Each unit will be approximately 1,250 square feet of heated living space, have 2 bedrooms, 2 full baths, and an open living area. A 2-car garage will also be provided for each unit with pricing around $321,000 each. Staff has completed an assessment of each of the required standards, and I'll go ahead and give a quick summary of each of those. Staff felt the proposals would be suitable in view of zoning and development of adjacent and nearby properties. There are currently a mixture of zoning designations, as you can see up here on the slide, and uses in the area. They go from IHB, CUN to RUI. The land to the west and south is currently vacant. It's zoned IHB, and that's this property that sits right here. And that's owned by Central Georgia Railroad. The property to the north is zoned CUN, and this is where you have a little strip center sitting there, commercial. And then you also have this across the street, some non-conforming commercial buildings that sit there. However, there's also a duplex which sits right here on the corner of Savannah and Robinson Street. So while there are multiple commercial uses in the immediate vicinity, most of those properties in the area are zoned RUI and have residential uses, including, like I said, the duplex at the corner of Savannah and Robinson. So therefore, we do feel that it would be suitable. And in addition, there is a need for more affordable homes in the area, and this project would provide that. Since the property is currently zoned heavy industrial, we felt there would be much less of an adverse impact on adjacent and nearby property from the construction of a duplex than if the owner were to build an industrial use on the property. Could it be used as currently zoned? We said while the property is currently zoned IHB, the dimensional requirements severely limit the building footprint. And we put a little example here of what that would look like if you had it. The lot is only 90 feet deep, and the setbacks alone limit that footprint to 10 by 30. So any development would require significant variances for the building, as well as parking, outdoor storage, and possibly a dumpster pad. So therefore, we felt like it really could not be used as currently zoned. Would the project cause an excessive or burdensome use of public facilities? We reached out to all the service providers, and those comments are included in your packets. And as you can see, there will be very limited impact in terms of service provision. In terms of the comprehensive plan, the future land use map shows this property as historic neighborhood, and this use would be compatible with that designation. A duplex would also be consistent with the purpose and use of the proposed zoning. Would the proposed use be supported by new or changing conditions not anticipated by the comprehensive plan? Back in 2021, when the city completed the full update, it gave it the historic neighborhood designation, and there are no new or changing conditions that have been discussed or considered since that update. Staff does feel this project shows a reasonable balance between the promotion of the public health, safety, morality, or general welfare, and the right to unrestricted use of property. The lot's just not large enough to house an industrial use. In addition, the duplex being proposed by the applicant will have less impact, and it would provide affordable housing for the area. All service providers looked at it. They said they could serve the property with little or no impact on current service level, and the comprehensive plan does show this as historic, future historic neighborhood, which would be consistent. So in summary, we found that they basically met 8 of the 8 standards. The Planning Commission held a public hearing at their December 17th meeting and voted unanimously to recommend approval, and with the following condition, and that would be that the duplex would be consistent with the renderings and specification provided by the applicant as part of the rezoning process. And that's a report of the Planning Commission, and Mr. Terrence Ford Taylor's here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Before we bring the applicant up, I have a couple of questions. It's, the recommendation from the Planning Commission is that they build the duplex.
Correct.
And what we heard in our work session, and I assume we'll hear it again tonight in just a minute from the applicant, is that the intent is to sell
That's my understanding, yes.
these properties. So how do you do a fee simple ownership of 2 properties that are connected like this when they're not townhomes? They're not,
You're basically looking at type of a condo type layout where you would have to sell each of the boxes, and then the land would be basically together under a one management condo association type development.
that's right, okay. I mean, there's no other way that I know of, based on my real estate knowledge, to sell these fee simple unless it's that, or
Yes.
unless the lot is subdivided.
Yes.
And then that becomes an issue with the density in that area to be able to build a house on that, because the lot's not, when you subdivide it, it's not, they're not big enough, 2 separately are not big enough to build the two houses.
Correct.
Okay, just want to clear that up before we get into the applicant presenting anything.
Mayor Brady, I have a question. For clarification, on this rezoning request to RUI, are we giving them all the variances that they need to build this duplex? Or we
Yes,
just?
sir.
Okay, so is it possible to unbundle this and we just rezone it RUI tonight and then let them come back to you with the plan and then present variance requests separately?
You can have it go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, but if the Board of Zoning Appeals doesn't grant them the variances, then that makes that lot, renders it basically where it can't meet those, the ability to build a duplex. So that's why it's included as conditions, and they basically would be overruling the council by not providing or allowing for the variances.
Okay.
I have a quick question if I could, and I keep hearing this term about a dumpster pad. I'm looking at, not that slide, I think the next one down, or one of the ones where it kind of shows the footprint on the property, the lot. It doesn't, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head, where would you put a dumpster pad that it wouldn't be into the buffer?
No, sir, the dumpster pad would only be if they built an industrial building on there, then they would
Okay.
be required to have the dumpster pad, and then that would even limit more where they could build based on the footprint you have here and the
Okay.
buffers and so
These
forth.
properties would have the roll-out trash cans just like we have.
Okay,
Correct.
then that's what I thought we talked about, but I remember at one point during our work sessions, there was a mention about a dumpster pad also. I just want to make sure there wasn't something like that.
Yes. They would be required if they did an industrial or commercial use.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions of Ms. Donovan?
I do, I'm trying to wrap my mind around, because this wasn't discussed, that part of this that you're talking about was not discussed at that thing, so I'm trying to wrap my mind around what that means. I mean, if they can't subdivide it and sell it fee simple, then it's basically a rental? I mean, I'm trying to understand how you sell this.
You can't. It's a
Cannot.
it's a in my opinion, and we looked at it, it's either going to be a duplex that's rented, or they're going to build a single-family home consistent with the neighborhood. I think those are the only 2 options. I don't see a way to split this into 2 fee simple units. I think a condominium association for a 2-unit is, I've never seen that.
Okay.
Are they still talking about the whole decentralized HOA thing?
Yeah, I don't, just
Yeah,
don't
we're
go
not going to
there.
get into the HOA thing tonight. Ms. Donovan, I think we have finished, unless there's another question, Ms.
I
Donovan.
don't have any question. I'm ready to make a motion, actually.
Well,
Oh,
we
you
need
got
to
it.
hear
Have
from the
public hearing.
applicant.
Huh?
We need to hear from the applicant.
Oh, okay.
If
a
the
public
applicant will
hearing.
come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good meeting. Good evening, council.
If you'll identify yourself for the,
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Terrence Ford Taylor. I'm the actual owner of the lot.
Okay,
at 51 Robinson Street.
good, thanks.
Basically, this is just a project that I've been working on for the last few years, and the best way that I felt, and with my partner here, Ms. Bickham, that I could get it done was to put a duplex based upon the size of the lot. And it's something I've been wanting to do for a while. And I wanted to do something where there would be some type of affordable housing. And of course, based upon the lot of the size, this was the best way that I felt that I could do it and kind of contribute to the city. I don't know if was any other questions. I would defer them to Ms. Bickham. She has a lot more experience in real estate, but she's just helping me has helped me to kind of get this project going. And of course, along with the help of Ms. Donovan and Tracy.
Okay. If you'll state your name for the record, and if we've got any questions, that'd be great.
Greetings and good evening to you all. My name is Gail Bickham.
All right. I don't know if you heard the question a few minutes ago about the inability to sell these fee simple when there's not on a subdivided lot. So it would have to be either a single-family residence there, not a duplex, or it would have to be a condominium association, some type of thing that you put together where you could sell both properties, and that gets into your business model. And we're really not here, even though we discussed it in length at the work session, we're really not here tonight to get back into your business model.
Right.
You just know that restriction is in place. If you accept this the way it is, I'm fully in favor of changing this, rezoning this property. It is not.
It's less than an ideal piece of property. I think it'll be much more attractive.
Yes, it's clearly not used as heavy industrial. And RUI, I think, is the right zoning classification. It just concerns me a little bit that the project may not get done at all because you find that developing a condominium association and all the rules and regulations and the management and all that goes along with all that it's not economically feasible to do that with two pieces of property. So that's your call, whether or not it's not our call. Your business model is not what we're talking about here tonight. So does anyone have any questions of the applicant or the?
So my question then is, the options that we have available to us in this are to rezone it RUI without all of this other stuff in it.
Right.
Or do nothing and deny it, really. I mean, if we're not going to get into the business model, then really our options are to rezone it RUI and be done with it.
No, we can accept the planning commission's recommendations. And then I just want to make sure that the owner understands that if we rezone this, accepting the planning commission's recommendations, and I hate to use the word, that's what you're stuck with, but that's what you've got. I mean, because that's in the ordinance. And it can be undone, certainly, by coming back to us if you find you can't do it the way you want to do it. I mean, it's not set in stone, but at the same time, it would be another process of coming back and undoing that. What Ms. Jenkins is suggesting is we take away, and Mr. Thompson has suggested that we take away those restrictions placed or conditions placed at the Planning Commission meeting and just zone it RUI1. And then at that point, when you get ready to build, you would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and present them a plan and ask for variances to build what you wanted to build.
So the thought is, if we accept the approved zoning that's been issued with the plan as it is, it sounds to me the main concern is you cannot sell this to two separate parties who own two separate units, but you can sell this to an individual to buy owner-occupy. So then you have at least one side owner-occupied, possibly that owner's family or whomever living on the other side.
That person would have had to have bought both parcels.
Right.
live in one and rent the other.
Right.
Sears, that's acceptable. That's
So
legal.
if that is acceptable and that is our best option based on what would be required to do this as two separate units, then that is something we could work with. It allows us to fulfill the goal of creating homeownership with an owner occupant.
Mr. Phillips, you had a comment?
Yeah, I got a clarification I think that council may need, and I'm not certain the answer. Is a duplex permitted by right in RUI or by special exception?
By right.
Okay, if you just zoned it RUI, then they could build a duplex and each side could be rented.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
That's the answer they're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we're also removing in this is the condition that the planning commission has applied, correct? It's just straight up rezone,
It's great, yeah, granite rezoning, but
right?
that's what I'm thinking.
Am I interpreting that correctly?
No, not under what she just said, the applicant just suggested, or the applicant's partner just suggested, that they would take it as proposed from the planning commission, and that at that point, after building the duplex, they would only sell, they would sell the whole thing, but be owner occupied on one side, and the other side would be a rental unit,
Got it, okay.
And the reason for that is?
because they can't, because
can't
what we
divide
said,
it.
they
Can't
can't,
split them.
they
Okay.
can't subdivide it.
Right. And
Or
technically-
create a condominium
Yeah.
association.
Technically, at least with FHA guidelines, units between 1 and 4 are considered single-family homes, and this would fall under that category.
Not in our zoning.
Yeah, not in the zoning class.
No, I'm
For
regarding
lending
financing.
for lending purposes, I
Yeah,
think you're
that's what
right.
There you go.
that's what I started
There
with.
you go.
It's at FHA guidelines is what I started with. But yeah, if it is issued today, as discussed, we would move forward, still accomplishing the goal of creating additional homeownership and being a value add to the community.
Like I said, I'm in favor of this. I mean, they have no other options for this piece of land.
I'm in favor of it as well, so, but
in a public hearing?
As long as they're understand it, I think it's fine to do it.
So,
I'm not
just trying to
confused
get
on
my
what
head
the
on this.
motion has to be.
It's going to be sold as two condos, or sold as is, one owner occupied, the other side rented? Okay.
That's right.
And the reason we can't do the two condos is because of the
Can't split
land
the land.
split?
Well, she doesn't have, well, now you're using the term condo, but you could sell it as two condos, but they would have to establish a condominium association for that one property, which is economically unfeasible.
Okay.
Well, we have some of that, but I guess it's under older zoning or under something like the one that Chip Cole lived in. There's
Right.
two different owners at one time.
Those were townhomes.
Huh?
Those were townhomes.
Townhomes, okay,
You can do this as a townhome.
okay.
Again, we're getting in their business model. So at this point, this is a public hearing regarding this particular rezoning. So let me ask if there's anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the rezoning. This is your opportunity to come forward. Anyone who would like to speak in favor of the rezoning? All right, any other questions of the applicant? All right, I will ask at this time, is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition of this rezoning? Anyone in attendance who wants to speak in opposition of this rezoning? All right, seeing no one come forward, are there any other questions of the applicant regarding the rezoning? Anyone? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing at this time and ask for a motion on the issue. The first thing we would need to do is a motion to accept the report and recommendation from the Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to second, we accept the report and recommendation from the Planning Commission. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carried. The next thing we would need is a motion to adopt the ordinance to rezone.
Make that motion.
second,
Motion to second to adopt the ordinance to rezone as presented with the conditions from the Planning Commission, correct?
Correct.
All right, good. Any other, did I have a second? You made a second.
Second,
Paul-
second, yes.
Paul had the second. Any other discussion or questions? Anyone? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion
Aye.
carried. You vote, it was a 6-1?
Yes.
Okay, a 6-1 vote in favor. Thank you, we
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rezoning's completed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is, the reason why we move these things around is because I need to recuse myself for item N and item P. And so I have an agent involved, at my real estate firm involved in both of those transactions. So I am going to leave the room at this time and not return until another date, because we don't finish up, Mayor Pro Tem, we'll finish up the agenda.
Got it. Mayor Brady.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, sorry, man.
Okay, regarding the rezoning request, RZZ 024-04-7.06 acres, we have received a withdrawal request from the applicant. They are requesting that we waive the 12-month resubmittal restriction as provided by Section 10-14 of the zoning ordinance. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion. I'll make the motion that we consent to the withdrawal of the rezoning request RZ 2024-04 and waive the 12-month submittal restriction as provided by Section 10-14 of the zoning ordinance.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is item number P. This is consideration of petition from Turnstone Group for consent to property owner's authorization as part of an application for rezoning.
So I will make that motion. Consideration of the petition from the Turnstone Group of consent to the property owner's authorization as part of the application for rezoning.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1.
5-1.
5-1, excuse me. We lost one.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is a request from Foundation Church to close South Court Square from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Friday, April 18th, 2025 for Good Friday event. Is there a representative from the church here? Jason? Any questions for Jason?
Nope, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Very good. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say. Very good, motion carries 6-0. There's not going to be an executive session, so motion to, any council member have anything they want to say?
Motion to adjourn.
I have one thing.
Second.
I
Ms.
just want to
Jenkins.
thank staff for handling the snowstorms as well as they did.
Thank you. There's-
Our-
Cynthia loves the snow, by the way.
I do. My kids are still praying for more, so I'm sorry.
If it's light and fluffy, we'll take it. No ice.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Just no more, we're done for the year. You've done a great job.
And a second.
You got a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all so much.
I think you're in for it.